Hey everybody, in today's video, I want to talk to you about when does Agile waste your money? What does it mean to do proper Agile? Maybe you've been doing it just because it's cool, that your customers really like the idea that you're doing Agile, but maybe you've never taken the time to properly do it in a way that makes sense, that actually improves your bottom line, the efficiency of your teams. So these are the main things that we want to achieve in today's video. First, how to build a backlog that really delivers on its purpose. Second, where does sprint planning fail most of the times? And three, what's the huge risk of not doing sprint retrospectives and skipping it? Let's get started with a short history of Agile. So a team of developers gather around in 2001 in a cabin somewhere in the mountains to talk about how to change and improve and how to make way more efficient the relationship between development teams and customers in order to deliver way more value. And they came up with these 4 principles in order to deliver more value to the customers. And these 4 principles that now are known as the Agile Manifesto are to prioritize individuals and interactions over processes and tools, to prioritize having a working software over just big fluffy documentation. 3, having a good customer collaboration over contract negotiation so that you deliver what they really want. And number 4, responding to change over just following blindly a plan, especially when it just doesn't deliver what they really want to achieve. The Scrum methodology and methodology in general means a set of processes, a set of concepts of best practices, tools of that sort that really are meant to make it easier for someone to apply certain principles, certain best practices. That's exactly what Scrum is. It comes with concepts that we're going to be talking about next that help us, development teams, companies, even clients, to make the most and apply those Agile principles. So there are 3 main core concepts in Agile Scrum. Just keep in mind that there's a lot of information out there. I'm telling you what I have applied successfully over the last 14 years. I'm not here to tell you and to make a big course about everything that Agile and Scrum is, but what is the easiest way for you to apply in order to make a huge difference in your development team. So let's get started. The first concept is the backlog. So what the backlog is all the requirements, all the features that you need to deliver as development team. Now, next one, you're going to be taking a subset, the top of these features, and you're going to be delivering a sprint with just a few of those features. Now, these are iterations where you take one chunk from the top of the backlog and you're going to be delivering over, in average, over 2 weeks. And the third one, and this is the sprint, right? Now, the third one is the daily work, 24 hours, where developers deliver certain issues out of that sprint. Next, let's talk about some meetings, some activities mandatory to happen when running Agile Scrum with your development team. The first one is backlog grooming. The backlog grooming is an activity that it's owned by the product manager or by the person in charge with what needs to be built as a software. They do 3 things. The first of them, they're going to separate ideas from features. In the backlog only goes features, stuff that needs to be built. Now, why did I want to mention ideas here? It's because it's very important to do something with it, but not populate your entire backlog and overwhelm the development team with it. Instead, for the ideas, for everything that comes from customers, you should have an idea board separately from your development tool. The second activity that happens in the backlog grooming is prioritizing. Now, prioritizing comes based on the business needs, based on the priorities of the company itself, and this is the one thing that really makes a difference. And if you screw that up, then maybe the business is actually going downhill. If you really don't pay attention to prioritization, you are going to be building the wrong thing. And that's why approaching it lean, building an MVP first, using the lean build, measure, learn cycle, all of those are critical It's not the purpose of this video, but they are critical on really understanding what you should be building, what you should prioritizing. The third thing that happens in the backlog grooming is to clarify. Clarify the issues, add more details to the requirements, all the functionality that needs to be built by the developers. Write it in the way with user stories and the special approach for it that needs to be in such a way so the developer just take it and really build on it. Okay, let's continue. Sprint planning is the second biggest activity of Agile Scrum. In the sprint planning, like we've showed in the beginning, you take the top of the backlog and then you take that and you assign it into the current sprint. But you don't just take a guess on what you should put and how much you should put. The top of the backlog is the one that is the top priority, of course, and which is an outcome out of the backlog grooming. Now, assigning it is based on the velocity of the development team, which is the capacity, which is how much are they usually able to build. Now, what that assumes is that you have made estimations from the previous sprints. You know how big a feature is, you have a way to estimate those, and you have a log of tracking how much they have built in the past. Some use maybe hours, but Agile Scrum comes with a concept of story points. Again, we're not going to be talking about that right now. There's going to be other videos about it, but right now you got to know that you have to assign from the backlog the top into the sprint planning to the next sprint based on the capacity that you've seen that your development team has over the last few sprints. The second one is to present and to clarify to the development team these user stories, these tasks that are in the backlog, and you've been taking them and you want to develop them into the next sprint. Now, in this meeting of sprint planning, who attends? Well, it attends the product manager, the person that is in charge of what needs to be built and is the one that tells the development team, this is what I want you guys to build next, is the entire development team with their lead developer and any other stakeholders that are important or they want to attend, but it's not mandatory. The product manager needs to present why he wants those features to be built and all the details of those user stories, and they have to be written in a way that it makes it easier for the developer to develop on them. That's why they call it user story. There's a specific template on how to write those. Number 3 is removing the user stories that you as a product manager, as a founder, wanted to be developed in that sprint, but the developers are very unclear about, and they have big critical questions and pieces missing from it. Now, this is in red here because it's one of the things that makes a sprint actually fail. If you do not remove those items that are very unclear, that have critical pieces missing out of it, then that's going to eat up a lot of the developer time. It's going to be a lot of back and forth, a lot of inefficiencies. I know from my experiences, you have to remove those out. Now, it's fine to keep some user stories that need very small clarifications, like a decision around a color of a button, things of that sort that maybe you didn't think about it and it's not that important. Another action that if it's not done in the sprint planning, it can actually break and fail a sprint. Not just that, but it's one of the things that make development team very inefficient because they don't do it. And that is committing. If you have to, you as a product manager, as a founder, as the owner of what needs to be built, when you go to the development team and you tell them this is what needs to be built, how much guys you can take in this sprint, they have to commit to you. You have to get a commitment from them. It's their business, it's their way of organizing themselves to make sure that they deliver it. It's not your responsibility as the person in charge of what needs to be built. Of course, you may be the founder, you may have both roles. Nonetheless, you have to get the team to commit. That makes them way more, that makes them pay way more attention to the estimates that they put, to the estimates that they give, pay more attention to the question that they have to make sure that they understand the requirements very well. So this commitment is like it's the golden ticket to having a really effective sprint planning and very efficient delivery of the items in that sprint. Okay, let's continue next with the sprint retrospective. Now, this is something that a lot of development teams don't do. And I want to tell you here, what are the 3 things and why you should do sprint retrospectives, including the main reason that you're losing if you don't do it. So number 1, what happens in a sprint retrospective? In that team, the internal development team is talking about what went well during the sprint. Well, we really had all the requirements very well defined. When we had questions, the client came and clarified everything that we needed. We worked very well together, all those sort of things. The next one that is really important, although it may seem not that great, is what went bad. Why does it seem like it's not really comfortable? Well, obviously, because you have to bring to the surface things that didn't go well. And it might be about your colleagues, other developers in the development team. It might be about the Scrum Master. It might be about anybody else, but that's uncomfortable. You have to speak up and say what didn't go well. What went bad? But why is that a key to having a really strong development team? It's because at the point, and like in life, at the point where you're open enough and you're confident enough and you're mature enough to speak up on what has affected your work, on what has affected the outcome of the entire development team, and not just look at you, at that point, the relationship gets really strong. At that point, the team gets built. When nobody's taking it personally, when you're there just to learn out of this. Now, this, again, is a very important thing. And I've been working with so many teams where when I started a project, I didn't even know those developers. Now, it's very important to develop, especially in a startup, a culture that really cultivates this this approach of being open, not criticizing others, but really being constructive by raising anything that is affecting the project in a really nice and polite way for the good of everyone. And the third one is, what can we improve? Ideas specifically that could improve the way that we all work together as a development team or in the relationship with the customer. Okay, the next one is a sprint demo. In this sprint demo, the client is meeting with the development team. The client or the product manager is meeting with the development team and they're looking at what was built and they make sure that everything is working according to what was in the sprint planning raised. Did the team deliver what they committed onto? Now, this is important and especially is desired by the client, and it's very important because you can see how much work was done from the perspective of the entire roadmap, of the entire feature set that you need to have as part of that product. Now, the next one is daily stand-up. And this is the meeting that it's very short, about 10 minutes every day. When the internal development team meets together, they look at what's in the sprint left from the sprint. Each of the development team is answering 3 questions. 1, what did I do yesterday? What will I do today? And what am I blocked on? Now, why is it important to answer these 3 questions? And this is a secret, especially for the remote team. If you are a remote team, or if you're in an office, it's way easier to see if someone is productive if they commit to a certain amount of work and the rest of the teammates see the commitment and they're able to say, yes, that's kind of the one day's worth of work, right? Even if it's remote developers or not, that makes it very easy to know that everyone has to work on the amount of work that it makes sense for a day. The second one, what am I going to be doing today? And the reason for which I put it in red over there is because a lot of teams just say what they plan to do today, and they forget one very important thing, and that is to commit to do that thing today. Exactly like in the sprint planning, this is another situation in which if you don't commit and you just plan, It's very, very easy. It's a slippery slope to not get things done. And that's why it's very important to actually keep a log about what everyone during time, what they committed to do and what they actually did. And this way you can see the productivity of the team long term. The third one, they just raise the blocker then, and they're happening other meetings separately on how to unblock those things. If you need help with how to establish these processes in your team, if you need help on to how to prioritize things in the backlog, how to really detail them and to use the right template, the right naming conventions, the right text, right user stories, or how to motivate the team to commit into sprint planning, who needs to be there? If you need help with any of these, with the productivity, making sure that everybody knows what they're supposed to do, assigning the right roles, you're going to see a link below this video and you're going to be able to book a call and we can talk about where your business is right now and where you want to get and if there's anything that we can do to help you. So feel free to book a call and see you soon.